Welcome in, everybody, to week 15. The Fatboyz are back after a week's hiatus. Brant and we were in Atlanta soaking in some football in person. We're back live this week, presented by the FantasyHolics Podcast Network, getting you guys ready for all your week 15 playoff matchups. I know we've already had 4 games take place. We've had the absolute drubbing of the Chargers by way of the Las Vegas Raiders and their defense. We had a really good game between the Vikings and the Bengals yesterday. Pittsburgh and Indy, not so much, and then Denver, Detroit, not so much. But we've had some fantasy guys go, so maybe you need some boom plays today. Maybe you need some safe plays because you've had some guys snap off. Make sure you let us know what kind of advice you're looking for. If you need that home run, let us know that. If you need some safe plays, let us know that. That way, because those will change our answers a little bit, Brant. So I want to get this out there too. Brant's joining us. He's got some prior commitments this week. So he's going to be with us for about a half an hour. And then Patrick, who was here with you guys last week in our absence, is going to come on and join me. So that way nobody's alarmed when one fat guy disappears and we bring in a much skinnier person to take that spot. So, Brant, you're in the car, but you're here.
Yep, I'm in the car. I'm in the car, but I am here. I'm here to help you guys with get ready for your fantasy playoffs. I got lucky. I only ran into Sam Laporta out of all these fantasy points, so I'm luckily not down too much. It's going to be an interesting week. Yeah, definitely let us know if you guys are in that hole of the Sam Laporta 3 touchdowns or anybody else, the Ty Chandlers that may have blew up or Jordan Addison. Make sure you let us know what your scores are looking like already. Like Bo alluded to, I had All-Star game for one of my players. 2 of my players, so I'm heading over there. I will be here with you guys all the way up until about 9:40, and then Patrick will be taking over for me.
Yeah. So let's also not mention forget to mention the fact that some of us may have also made bad lineup decisions, like starting Russell Wilson over Jake Browning this week. Things of that
Only
nature.
Only 1 point difference. Only 1 point difference by the end of the game.
But we were doubting Browning a little bit, but
definitely was. Browning will probably be my starter next week.
Let's get into this. We've got some questions starting to come through here. Let's get through some of these. Let's get some of these people on the right track, Brant.
All righty.
Tony says, didn't have Allen Robinson Jr. or Stevenson this week. Need help for flex PPR. He's got Zach Charbonnet, Gibson. I don't know if it has to be James Cooks. Well, I guess, no, that's probably Brandon Cooks, I guess. And then OBJ. I'm assuming he just needs one, Brant. So what are you thinking here? Who's your flex play out of these guys?
I'm at Gibson. I know B-Rob should be out again this week. Everything's trending for him to be out. So I like Gibson to get the bulk of the carries. Charbonnet and Walker will be splitting. Cooks, I'm not sure how that game's even going to turn out. And then OBJ is I still don't trust him. I know he's had some good weeks. I still don't trust him. So I have to go with Gibson here.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with OBJ. I think OBJ is the safer play, and I also think he's this high ceiling guy. I think you've really started to see him and Lamar form a connection. I like OBJ this week. I've got him in a couple of my lineups that he's rode the bench all year for me. I'm expecting some decent performance out of him this week. I actually like Chris Rodriguez a lot in that Washington game, Brant. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but I like OBJ on this one, Tony. John says, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Drake London, Douglas, or Taysom Hill for the flex, Brant?
Well, I believe Taysom Hill's trending in the wrong direction, so I don't know if he'll be playing. I think I go with CEH on this one. Yeah, give me CEH on this one.
Yeah, CEH is probably, I don't know how safe it is because I like Jerick McKinnon quite a bit too. I think I go with Drake London personally, coming off of his career best game last week. Desmond Ridder looks his way pretty frequently at this point. I like Drake London quite a bit moving forward. That Atlanta offense is starting to get a little bit better. If that defense comes back into shape, that team could be okay. But I do like Drake London on this one.
Yep.
Joe says he needs some Hail Marys. He's down 40 points. He needs a running back and a flex. He's got Charbonnet, Devin Singletary, Dameon Pierce, Kenneth Gainwell, Hollywood Brown, Demarcus Robinson, or Cole Kmet, Brant?
Man, I need a running back and a flex. Running back, I think I have to go with Singletary. I think he's probably your best play. He might be your home run play too. Hollywood, Arizona's got Sam Prant this week, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Give me Hollywood Brown. You need a home run play, give me Hollywood Brown. That man can take a 40 or 50-yard one to the house. Give me Hollywood.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the exact same two. Devin Singletary definitely looks to be the better back in Houston. Green Bay's fairly susceptible against the run here recently, so I like Devin Singletary. And then Hollywood Brown, Brant, like you said, San Francisco's defense is kind of scary, but their secondary is really not that great. They're kind of banged up a little bit too. We've seen some number ones go pretty ham and bananas against them here recently as well. So I actually do like Hollywood Brown myself as well. I think he has a very good home run hitting play this week. I think you're very safe with Hollywood Brown there. John's coming in here rubbing it in everybody's face a little bit. He said he had Gibbs, St. Brown, and Laporta last night. The only way that could have been any better, John, is if you'd have had Jared Goff too, which would have made for a heck of a week.
6 touchdowns between those three.
Yeah, pretty good week.
Yeah.
Jennifer says, Puka, Waddle, Hall, and Gibson. Pick 2 in PPR.
The Jets have
Miami.
Give me Brees Hall. I think he'll be the beneficiary of some of that pass lead dump off work. You know what? Scratch that. Give me Puka and Waddle. You got a banged up Tyreek Hill who may not have to play the full game. Give me Waddle on that. And give me Puka because Washington doesn't have a secondary. So I expect Puka and Cooper Kupp to both go ham this week. Give me Puka and Waddle.
Yeah, it's Puka and Waddle for me too, Brant. Highest ceiling, fairly safe plays with both of them. I think Waddle may just absolutely snap off this week. I like Waddle a little bit better if Tyreek plays because I would think Tyreek would be the focal point of that New York Jets offense, even if he is a little banged up. But I like Waddle an awful lot. And Puka in the Rams offense, that's just been surprising everybody. Kyron Williams, who's last year he was too small and too slow, and here he is lighting the world on fire. You know, a lot of people, myself included, thought Stafford was done, but here we are, Brant.
Yeah, here we are watching the Rams contend with the Seahawks.
Passing them this week, potentially. Bill says defense, Browns, who play the Chicago Bears, or the Atlanta Falcons, who have the Carolina Panthers, Brant.
So the Browns are going to cause turnovers. We know that. They lead the league in cause turnovers. They have a quarterback they're playing against that's going to cause interceptions. But something tells me the Falcons are going to be the best defense this week against the Carolina Panthers. So that's where I'm at with that. I went out, I acquired them. You alluded to this last week. I acquired the Falcons anywhere and everywhere I could, and I'm starting them in every league this week. So I'm going to go with the Falcons here.
Yeah, I actually I think the Falcons are the better play myself too. The defense was kind of exposed last week a little bit by the Buccaneers. I think they bounce back in a big way. I think they get pressure on Bryce Young, and right now I'm not sure I trust anybody with the exception maybe Deron Bland in Dallas to create turnovers more than Jesse Bates does in the secondary right now. So I'm absolutely enthralled with this defensive matchup for the Falcons against the Panthers today. So I roll with them as well.
All righty.
Matt says, good morning, gentlemen. I'm down 40 points already thanks to Laporta and Gibbs. He must be playing Johns. He says he needs the best tight end play today. Jake Ferguson or Trey McBride?
I got to go with Ferguson. San Fran's too good against the tight end. If I'm not mistaken, they're top 10 against the tight end. And so I got to go with Ferguson here.
Yeah, I think you're right, Brant. I'm looking up the points against right now. San Francisco is actually number 4 against the tight ends right now. So they've absolutely been clamps on those guys. So I'm going to go with Jake Ferguson myself. He's become a pretty big focal point of that offense. And I think the Buffalo Bills are much further up the list. They're 10th, so both of these guys have tough matchups. But San Fran at 4 and Buffalo at 10. I think I'm gonna roll with Jake Ferguson himself.
I'm gonna roll with the offense I trust more.
Yeah, that's true too. Dak's an MVP candidate, which perfectly segues us into this next question from Tony Brandt. With bad weather in the Buffalo game, what quarterback do you think is a better play? Dak Prescott against the Buffalo Bills or Allen against the Cowboys in that game?
If there's bad weather, so I'm assuming they're in Buffalo. So if there's bad weather, I have to go with Allen because he can use his legs more than Dak. I'm not saying Dak won't scramble, Dak won't move, but I think Allen has the higher upside on the ground.
Okay. I think we're split on this one. I think Dak's playing at an MVP level this year. I like Dak a lot. I think he's really come out and proven himself this year as a top 10 quarterback. I like Dak personally. I like the weapons a little bit better. That Allen and Diggs connection has looked really off in recent weeks. I'm a little nervous about that moving forward, but I do like Dak in this one.
That's going to segue me into something that I was looking at prior to leaving this morning. I think Diggs is in for a huge game. I think he's going to help his brother make sure that nobody's taking his spot there in the Dallas secondary. So I can see Diggs going for a huge game today up there at Buffalo. I didn't get a chance to look at the weather before I made that little prediction in my mind. So what is that weather looking like if we get a little second or if we still have too many comments rolling in?
We have some comments, but we can look it up real quick here. I wasn't ready for you to spring that on me.
My fault. But yeah, I did. I looked through, but obviously I looked through the weathers. I didn't see. I must have just skimmed right over this one if there's bad weather in it.
Yeah, I mean it's just going to be windy and raining. I mean it's
okay.
You're talking 18-mile-an-hour winds, Brant, and better than 60% chance precipitation all game.
Okay. So. Okay. All right, I got you. Yeah, I still think Diggs will be in for a good game this week.
Yeah, nothing any of those pros can't get through.
Right.
All right, John says Chiefs defense or Baltimore defense. Baltimore's Sunday night game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Kansas City has the lowly the New England Patriots.
I'm going with the Chiefs. The Patriots can't score. I love Baltimore. I think Baltimore is a Super Bowl contender right now. They're great on both sides of the ball. But there's no way the Chiefs the Patriots are going to be able to throw to keep up with the Chiefs this week. So I expect a lot of turnovers, and I expect the Chiefs to go off.
Well, first of all, Brian, if the Patriots are trying to throw to keep up with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, that means there's going to be some interceptions happening as well. So, yeah, I like the Chiefs defense quite a bit. Baltimore's kind of got a tough stretch here. I do think Baltimore ultimately beats the Jags. I just don't know if I want their defense this week. So.
Man, that's a game I'm looking forward to.
Tony says PPR, Ferguson or Evan Ingram here. So again, we just talked about Ferguson a little bit in that Buffalo game, or Evan Ingram in that Sunday night contest against the Ravens defense, Brant.
Man, both have been great. I think I'm going with Ferguson. I think this boils down to I'm going with the offense I trust a little bit more.
Yeah, and so the Ravens are 9th against tight ends. Buffalo's right there in 10th. So coin flip as far as the defenses go. They're both more than capable of slowing tight ends. But, yeah, you're right, Brant. I'm going to go with the offense I trust a little bit more to go off on. That's the Cowboys offense. Jennifer says slim pickings and lots of injuries. Pick 3. Shaheed, Jerick McKinnon, Chuba Hubbard, Drake London, or Jalen Reed. Projections are close, she says. So you need 3 of those, Brant.
Okay. Man, I love Reed this week, but I don't know. I think I go Hubbard, London, and Reed, actually. I think I'm going to leave McKinnon out just because I don't know what's going to go on with that backfield. You could see EH blow up that backfield. So I think I'm going to go with Hubbard, London, and Reed.
Okay. So I actually like Reed quite a bit this week, too, just because no Christian Watson and that Packers offense has been pretty hot lately. However, I'm going Rashid Shaheed. There's a strong chance Chris Olave doesn't play. He's going to be a true game-time decision. Okay, so whether Olave plays as a decoy, Olave is healthy, Shaheed should still be the second option in that offense, passing offense-wise anyway. I like Shaheed. Jerick McKinnon, this is the 1-year anniversary, folks, of him absolutely blowing up in fantasy last year. So Jerick McKinnon's in for a good week. He scored a touchdown last week. He was pretty involved in the goal line situations, which I was shocked by. And then I go Drake London. So we're similar on Drake London, Brant. The rest of them, I'm taking the other two. Again, like I said, I just think that there's a good chance Jerick McKinnon could be the guy in that Kansas City offense just as much as there's a chance for CEH.
Okay.
Rob says, if Olave does sit, who do I start? Ford, Gibson, or Keaton Mitchell on PPR? He's projected to win by 14 right now, Brant. So he kind of needs a safe play.
Well, he's got my love. He's got my fantasy love on there, but I can't go with him yet. I'm gonna have to go with Gibson. They have Chicago. Yeah, give me Gibson. I just think Gibson's a safer play. I know he'll be involved. Washington has
the Rams.
Yeah. I think I do like Gibson. I like Gibson this week.
I'm gonna go with Ford in that contest against the Chicago Bears. I expect that to be a low-scoring game. Both teams are going to grind it out. I think Jerome Ford's in for 15-plus carries, maybe a couple receptions from old man Flacco, and that hot team that I didn't think I'd be talking about with Joe Flacco under center, I think keeps it rolling here today. I think Jerome Ford's a very safe play this week. Amy says, pick two, Brant. Devin Singletary, Scary Terry, Jackson Smith and Jigba, or Romeo Dobbs.
So Philly's very acceptable to the pass. I'm going to go with JSN. It's going to be my one. Man, Terry really has not looked that great lately. Man, I think I go with JSN and Scary Terry still.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with JSN and Dobbs myself. Again, Jordan Love's been hot.
Tossed between.
Yeah, he's been hot. No Christian Watson today. I think Reed and Dobbs are both in for pretty good days of work here. JSN's just bursting on the scene right now, so we're going to go ahead and not take him out of the lineups. Paul says, in PPR, Brant, Rashid Shaheed or Brandon Cooks?
I think if Olave's out, you go with Shaheed. You go with the number one that's on that offense right now. So I think you go with Shaheed.
Yeah, I second that. If Olave's out, I go with Shaheed. I think I probably stay with Shaheed even if Olave does play, just because the weather there in Buffalo doesn't look that great. And where's Cooks on this pecking order in your mind, Brant? Because he's not in front of CeeDee Lamb. I'm not sure he's in front of Michael Gallup. And I don't know if he's in front of Jake Ferguson. So for me, I just don't know how much stock I'm putting into Brandon Cooks right now.
Yeah, I mean, Cooks does always have, he has his games. I don't even know. I would put him closer to Gallup than Ferguson. I think it goes Lamb, Ferguson, and maybe Gallup and Cooks in that pecking order.
Okay.
But you don't know whose game it is.
Okay. Ryan says, happy holidays, fellas. Kind of in a hole. Raining to Ty Chandler and Laporta. He says he's got Bijan. He says he's got Bijan, Henry, and Achane. Who do you think's the odd man out? Have Henry in as of now due to Achane status, but don't love Henry against Houston. So first of all, happy holidays, Ryan. Second of all, Brant, last year, how did you feel about Derrick Henry against Houston?
I prayed to everything holy I didn't have to face him when he played Houston. And this year is a little different.
Yes, it sure is.
But he has owned that team, and until he doesn't own them anymore, I'm trusting Henry and Bijan this week. Achane's my odd guy out because Mostert's look too good. Achane's hurt, so I think I'm trusting Bijan and Henry.
Yeah, I go Bijan and Derrick Henry as well here, Ryan. I think you just have to keep riding the hot hand. Henry's had three games in a row with double touchdowns. Or 2 touchdowns or more, I guess. So I think you have to keep going Henry at this point until he has a bum game, which unfortunately we're getting into the playoffs where if he has a bum game, it may be the end of it. But I think you have to ride it. Mostert's look too good. He's going to be splitting carries with Achane at worst. So I think you go Bijan and Derrick Henry, excuse me, not Hunter. My goodness. All right, Amy says Calvin Ridley or Evan Ingram at the flex. She says she's got McBride in at tight end already. So Amy's rolling with McBride against the Niners, Brant. So yeah, Evan Ingram or Calvin Ridley?
Man, Ingram looked so good last week in the first week with no Kirk. Ridley, I don't own any stock in, so I'm not 100% sure what he did. We were down
Ridley's
there.
Ridley's been all over the place, man.
I think I ride with Ingram. I honestly do. The man has been involved completely. He's even more involved without Christian Kirk. I go with Ingram.
Yeah. Man. If Ridley was more consistent, he's currently wide receiver 26 on the season. So, I mean, it's not as bad as it feels. Last week against Cleveland, Brent, he had 13 targets. He only reeled in 4 receptions, but 13 targets, which is a season high for him. So I think I do go Ridley just because the upside, Amy. 13 targets, man. It's hard to sit that coming off of that. I'm gonna go Ridley here. I don't love it, but I think that's where you have to go. All right. Shannon says Breece Hall or Taysom Hill, Brant.
Go with Breece Hall. Taysom Hill's running in the downslide of not playing. I own him in a few leagues, and I've been sitting there watching his projections go down. I don't think he ends up playing. I think it's going to have to be Breece Hall.
Okay. I like Breece Hall as well over this one. I think, we both picked against Hall earlier, but I do still think there's a solid chance that he has a decent game. Breece Hall will catch passes if the Jets are down, so which I expect them to be against the Miami Dolphins. So I think Breece Hall is probably a pretty safe play here. All right, here it is. Matt says OBJ or DeAndre Hopkins. What a good problem this would have been to have in 2015. The Titans have the Houston Texans.
Okay. That's right. We just talked about that. I go OBJ here. Hopkins has been same thing as Ridley. He's been up and down all year. I think I go with OBJ.
Okay. I'm okay with either one of these here. I'm pretty sure Hopkins is coming off of a pretty good game last week. Went off last Monday night, I believe. Yeah, he did. He had 12 targets, 7 receptions. That's back-to-back weeks of 12 targets for DeAndre Hopkins. So I do go with DeAndre Hopkins here. I don't love DeAndre Hopkins because I don't love Will Levis at this point, but I think you go with a guy who's coming off back-to-back 12-target games and hope it continues.
Okay.
All right. Daniel says Curtis Samuel, Douglas, or Noah Brown.
Man, I want to say Noah Brown, but I'm not even sure who's throwing the ball there for him.
Should be Case Keenum, it sounds like.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go Noah Brown. He's the number one on that team. Odds are Nico's out. Odds are, we know Tank Dell's out, so I think Noah's still going to be the number one on that team. So give me Noah Brown.
Okay. I like Noah Brown. He did hang a goose egg last week, but that Houston team just didn't play well at all last week to begin with.
Right.
I'm actually going to go Curtis Samuel here, Brant. He's kind of been the guy that's been the most consistent, really, in that Washington pass catching room. It's not super sexy, but he's getting 4 or 5 receptions a week. I like Curtis Samuel, especially against the Rams. I think this is a game that you see Washington and the Rams stay close with one another. I think he's involved start to finish, and he should have his number one quarterback. If C.J. Stroud was playing this week, Brant, and Nico Collins was out, along with obviously Tank Dell, I think it would be Noah Brown for me, but I'm going to go with Curtis Samuel. Okay. All right, Matt says Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Chuba Hubbard.
Carolina has Atlanta. CH has. Give me CH. I like CH this week. I think he'll be in line for the number one back there. So yeah, give me CH.
Okay. I think Chuba Hubbard's going to get plenty of work. Which Atlanta defense is showing up? I just don't know. If it's the same one that just got torched by Rachaad White, then I love Chuba Hubbard this week. If it's the one from previously in the season where they're very stingy against the run, I don't know, Brant. I don't necessarily love either of these guys this week. I do think Chuba Hubbard sees more work than CEH, so I think for that reason alone, I'm going to go Chuba Hubbard. But I will preface this by saying I don't love either one of these options. But if I had to pick, it's Chuba for me.
Okay.
Paul says, morning, guys. In a playoff game and trailing after Raiders D and White put him in a hole to climb out of. He's got OBJ versus Jacksonville, DJ Moore versus Cleveland and flex in PPR scoring. He needs a boom play to not get a first-round bounce.
Man, I know you're not going to like this, but I'd go DJ Moore. I know they're playing Cleveland, but I think that he can take one to the house. One of those screen passes Cleveland likes to be over pursue a little bit. So I think I'm going to go with DJ Moore if you need that boom play.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look it up. Oh, he was questionable going into this week. It sounds like he's expected to play DJ Moore, that is, with a twisted ankle. So that does make me a little nervous for him being able to plant, hit his zigs and his zags and his routes real quick. But I think we're in agreement here. He is the boom play. OBJ could be fun. He could be OBJ could be a boom, but the percentages of him booming are way less than that of DJ Moore. So no, I don't hate it this week. I just don't like DJ Moore in general, Brant. This week, I think it is a fairly good play. Like I said, I wish he was completely healthy because this would be a no-brainer for me. But I am a little nervous about him. So it's still DJ Moore, though.
Okay.
All right. Bill says he's got a kicker. Yes, a kicker question. He said he's got Santos in bad weather or the Rams kicker in the dome.
Go with the dome. I did it last year. I went with the dome in bad weather, and it paid off. I will always go with the dome, and I believe in going with the dome.
Yeah, I think you go with the dome here as well. It just you don't want elements to be a factor in your kicker. I know a lot of leagues are going away from the kickers. Our leagues still have them, Brant, and like you alluded to, you won a championship last season by benching the better kicker all year in favor of a kicker who was playing in the dome. So yeah, when in doubt with a kicker, you always pick the one that's playing where the elements aren't going to be a factor.
Now, mind you, it can bite you in the rear, like mine did last week. We won't say any names, but it definitely bit me in the rear.
We're going to do this a little different this week. Like I alluded to, Brant's, a few minutes from bowing out on us here. Patrick's going to be coming in to join me, so Brant can go do his thing. So we're going to go ahead and get our underdog questions out of the way with, or underdog plays out of the way with now, and our touchdown scores. Keep the questions and the lineup questions coming in because me and Patrick will join those. Brant and I will get through as many of them we can before Brant has to get out of here. But for sake of Brant's time, we're going to get through and jump into this underdog stuff, Brant.
Okay.
All right, Brant, go ahead. Let's start with touchdown scores. Let's get those out of the way with real quick. We'll knock those out of the park, and then we'll jump into the underdog plays real fast.
All right, you may have to correct me. I know I sent them to you. I can't switch screens right now, but I have A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Bijan Robinson, and who was my fourth one there?
Your fourth one was Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp, all to find the end zone. Washington secondary isn't there for Kupp. Bijan should have a field day over the Carolina Panthers, and I expect Seattle and Philly to be a high-scoring game. I expect those two former roommates to go head-to-head. So I expect a very, very good outing for both of them this week.
You also did have Jalen Reed, if you want to talk about that one really fast.
No Christian Watson. Absolutely love Jalen Reed this week. No Christian Watson.
All right. So I've kind of made a habit of doing this with my touchdown scorers a little bit, Brant. I like to go after a little juicier money plays here on these guys. So I'm going to hit you with a few, and I actually like them all this week. We'll see which ones hit and don't. But Zeke Elliott of the New England Patriots, I think that it's going to be an early score, and then the Kansas City Chiefs are going to walk away with this. Alvin Kamara, especially if there's no Chris Olave, I really like Alvin this week. No Taysom Hill would be beneficial for this as well. Rashad White continues his hot streak, running back 4 on the season. I think that just continues. And then here's the ones that make it really interesting. Justin Fields to run in one this week, Brant. I think they'll get down in the red zone, and it's going to be a stacked defense, but I think Justin Fields uses his legs to get it done. And then the biggest one that's just going to sprinkle that little extra boost on top here, Desmond Ridder to rush one in, Brant. We saw it in person last week. He's done it quite a few times this year. I think he does it again this week against the Carolina Panthers. And you see the Falcons score through Desmond Ridder. All right, take us through your underdog plays, Brant. I'll go ahead and tell you what you had here real quick, and then if you want to explain it, that way you can remember the numbers off the top of your head. You have Bijan higher than 63.5 rushing yards.
Already hit it. I expect him to run all over that Carolina defense. I expect them to show why he was such a high pick.
You have Kyron Williams lower than 93.5 rushing yards.
I still like the front of Washington's defense. So it's rushing yards. I do expect Williams to have a good game, but I expect them to make the Stafford air it out and maybe lower the expectations on Kyron's rushing ability this week.
Okay. You have Jalen Reed higher than 9.75 fantasy points.
I love it. I think without Christian Watson, I expect him to be the number 1 target. And like you said, Green Bay's offense has looked really good lately. So I expect Jalen Reed to have a really good game. If he gets that touchdown, he's only 2 points away from it.
And then my last one, this one you and I both had, I deferred to you. Wan'Dale Robinson higher than 37.5 receiving yards.
The Giants play, I just looked this up, but the name is eluding me. Who do they have?
The Giants play the New Orleans Saints.
Okay. The Saints are actually one of the worst teams against slot wide receivers, so I expect Wan'Dale Robinson. I know it sounds bad, but I expect Wan'Dale Robinson to be the beneficiary of this. I expect him to be the guy that's going to see the most targets, and I expect him to go well over that 37.5.
Okay.
That's total yards.
Correct. I'm going to take you through mine real quick, Brant, let you get your opinion on this, and then I'll let you sign out so I can get Patrick into the fold here. He is waiting in arms here. So I'll take you through mine. I've got Tommy DeVito higher than 178.5 passing yards. Yeah, the mobster there in New York, he just fits the bill perfectly. He's everything and more this team needs. I have him, like I said, to go higher than 178.5. I have Derrick Henry to go lower than 71.5 rushing yards, Brant. I know he's been hot. He's had all of his touchdowns. Hear me out. He's had his 2 touchdowns every week, but his numbers aren't what they used to be. He's not going for 100 yards very frequently. I think he stays around 60 yards rushing. He may have a couple receptions to boost his total yards. This is just rush yards. I think he still has a formidable game against the Houston Texans. I just don't expect him to go over 72 yards rushing. So there you go. Jalen Waddle, I have higher than 63.5 receiving yards. Like we talked about a little bit earlier on in the show, Brant, I don't expect Tyreek Hill to have a big game this week. I think it's going to be a Jalen Waddle week. I think he finds the end zone, and I think he has 63.5 reception yards or more. And then I've got my last 2. I'll go with the easier one first. I think Patrick Mahomes gets back to being Patrick Mahomes. He's going to come out with a fire under his butt from last week after the missed call, the controversial that really wasn't controversial. Offsides on the offense where Kadarius Toney couldn't figure out where he was supposed to stand. I think Patrick Mahomes goes higher than 251.5 passing yards. And then my favorite play, I think this one's a lock, Brant. Jerome Ford to have higher than 11.5 rushing attempts. All he's got to do is carry the ball 12 times. I think this is going to be a run fest between Cleveland and Chicago. I look for them to use and abuse Jerome Ford this week.
Okay. All right. I don't hate it. The Jerome Ford scares me a little bit with how much Kareem was involved last week, but I don't hate him at all. 12 times doesn't seem like much.
No, it doesn't. All right, Brant, thanks for being here with us this week. Enjoy your game. Hopefully your girls play well. And we will be back. You and I will be back for a full hour next week. No interruptions, no Falcons games, no all-star basketball games. Everything will be back to normal next week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yep. Stay fat, Brant.
Always.
All right. Patrick, the honorary fat boy. What is up? How are you doing, Patrick?
Pretty good, trying to pack on some pounds, but slowly but surely, I guess. It's the holiday season. Maybe by the end of the holiday season, I'll be a little rounder.
Well, I know I will be, and there's not much more I can get round, but I'm going to find a way. It's my favorite time of the year. I like to eat, Patrick.
How was that Falcons game? It looked pretty good.
It was a good time. The food was really good. I mean, there's only been 2 games ever where people have gotten to see a domestic touchdown out of Kyle Pitts. I happen to be one of those people that got to say I saw it in the United States. We got to see a safety in person, just a bunch of things you don't typically see. We got to see. It was a good game. Obviously I wish the outcome would have been a little bit better, but we had fun nonetheless.
You got a Younghoe Koo miss? That's pretty rare.
2 of them.
2 of them.
2 of them. Yeah. Yep. Most accurate kicker in NFL, back to second. So there you go. We've already had some kicker questions this week, Patrick. We've got a couple questions waiting to get answered here. If you're ready to get after it, I'm ready to get after it.
Let's go.
All right, here we go, Patrick. So Tony says, should he play Tyreek Hill or go with Garrett Wilson, Mike Evans, or Scary Terry?
All right. Well, I love Terry McLaurin like no one else, but I just can't anymore. I have no idea how Sam Howell's 3rd in the league in passing yards, but it feels like McLaurin has done nothing. Just saw like 5 minutes ago while I was getting set up, Tyreek walking into the stadium looked perfectly fine. He looked perfect. I think it might just be some mind games. Oh, Tyreek might not play. There's so much weather this week. Like, it's so blustery and windy and rainy and snowy. It's hard to sit Tyreek here, but he's got like a trifecta of things against him. Ankle, weather, Sauce Gardner. What do you think?
Yeah, any one of those things on its own right is scary, but when you add all 3 of them, if this is anybody other than Tyreek Hill, I think I'm out. Tyreek Hill is enough that I question it at least. I will say for me, Patrick, if I was to go with any of these 3, it'd have to be Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Shut down last week. He should be in line for a huge bounce back. I believe Chris Godwin's banged up as well. So I do think Mike Evans would be the guy I would pivot to. If Tyreek Hill plays, especially with this being the fantasy time of the year, I'm not comfortable sitting him, Patrick. I think if you have to put your best players out there, and to me, that's Tyreek Hill out of these names.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd sleep tonight if Tyreek did have that big game and it cost me. So I'd lean Tyreek, but if not, Mike Evans has been feasting. Yeah, no Chris Godwin. Yeah, definitely Tyreek Evans, my second choice.
Okay. Jake says, Rams D or Jets D?
Jets. I think Jets. Well, they're going to get the Rams will definitely get a lot of sacks and probably some interceptions.
Mm-hmm. Man. I personally, I have a really hard time advocating starting any defense against the Dolphins because they've just been so good this year. And how do you explain losing and getting bounced out of the playoffs? And you're like, yeah, I started the Jets D against the Dolphins, and the Dolphins hung up 65 points. So I don't see the Commanders being able to light the scoreboard up quite as well as I do the Dolphins. I think I go Rams defense just because Sam Howell's going to throw the ball so many times. There's bound to be at least one interception in the mix someplace there. And I don't think the Commanders are capable of 50-plus points, whereas I don't know if I can say that comfortably about the Dolphins.
Rams will definitely get some sacks. The Commanders' O-line is like a turnstile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Rams.
Okay, we're in agreement. John says in 1-point PPR, he's got Kenneth Walker or Rashid Shaheed. Patrick, do you prefer either one of these two, or you?
I'm a big Kenneth Walker fan, but against Philly could be some tough sledding. And Rashid, he's missed a decent amount of time lately against the Giants with some momentum. It's a tough one. Man, how much time has Shaheed missed?
I'm going to look him up currently myself. He's missed the last 2 weeks, but it looks like he's going to be completely healthy going into this game. Yeah, he got some practices in. Looks like he's good to go for sure. He won't have any limitations, it says.
Man, that's a tough one. I like the volume. Well, the volume of Walker, but Charbonnet will play, and the Seahawks will probably be passing most of the night. Shaheed he'll be doing a little bit of everything, returning kicks, returning punts, full PPR. But Rashid isn't going to get that many targets or catches. Full PPR. Walker feels safer.
Walker does feel safe. I will agree with you on that. Walker does feel like the safer play.
That's a tough one. I'm glad that's not my decision.
The one thing I will say, and I think it's going to ultimately be the difference maker for me, Patrick, is the Eagles' run defense is currently the 4th best at giving up the 4th fewest amount of fantasy points to opposing running backs, whereas the New York Football Giants are currently 29th, giving up the 29th most fantasy points, giving up the 4th most fantasy points. They're averaging 39 points to the running back position. And this Saints offense may be missing Chris Olave. He's a true game time decision. I haven't seen anything yet as far as updates on anything with him this morning. So if Olave's out, I think I do go Rashid Shaheed. If Olave plays, I think I probably go Walker. But just because of the discrepancies in how bad one defense is against the wide receivers and how good Philly is against the running backs, I think I might still go Shaheed here just to be on the better side of defense there. I'd probably put Walker in now since he's the Sunday night play, and that way, in case you miss getting Shaheed out, if Olave plays, whatever. If you happen to be paying attention, Johns, and you see the news that Olave is out, go back and put Shaheed in. I think I'm comfortable with it at that point.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, Patrick, we got a quarterback question here from Ryan. He says, Jordan Love or Matthew Stafford?
Stafford.
Yeah, we're definitely in agreement here.
That Commanders-Bears game is still pretty vivid. The Fields and Moore were like unpressured that whole night, and then I think last week I mentioned it. I took the Commanders defense against Tommy DeVito. I thought this is a lock. No, Tommy DeVito threw all over the Commanders. So with Kupp looking really good, Nakua still playing great in his rookie year, Stafford versus the Commanders. I would, and they're at home. They're nice and comfy indoors in Los Angeles. So I'd definitely go Stafford.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference for me here is that you've got one quarterback playing with a full host of his weapons, whereas Jordan Love's missing, in my mind, his best fantasy asset in Christian Watson, who could take a 20-yard or take a slant from the 20-yard and run 80 yards for a touchdown, which reflects really nicely on the quarterback in fantasy. No Christian Watson. There's no field stretcher in my mind on that Green Bay offense. So I think I go with Stafford. The upside's there indoors, like you alluded to, Patrick. There won't be any weather playing effects there. And really, we kind of saw Jordan Love take a step back with no Christian Watson on the field last week. So I'm liking Matthew Stafford a lot in this one. All right, Patrick, we got a lengthy one here. Vincente says, Demario Douglas, Trey McBride, Deontay Foreman, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, OBJ, Terry McLaurin. He says, this is a long one, but he needs 2 for the wide receiver and 1 for the flex.
Yeah, McBride's in the must-start territory.
Okay.
And Odell's been playing well. It's hard to sit OBJ. He's got some of the magic back. To play in Jacksonville
Mm-hmm.
I think the Jaguars are really bad against the pass, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they're 4th most yards allowed, 6th most touchdowns. I would definitely put OBJ and McBride in, I guess, flex OBJ since he's the latest player out of that group. My heart says McLaurin, but to win, I don't know. He's let me down quite a bit. He hasn't. I think maybe the play calling has let me down.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Makes you question things a little bit. Actually, I didn't think I was going to feel this way when I started reading this question, but I did a little bit of independent research here as you were answering on your end, Patrick. I think I like Demario Douglas quite a bit here this week. I expect the Patriots to play from behind. Demario Douglas is back healthy after missing the last 2 weeks for the Patriots. And anytime you get a team playing from behind, I know they call it garbage time, but that's sweet for fantasy. That's the sweet spot. And I expect him, listen, in his last 2 games that he played, he had 9 targets both games. So I think he's your boom play. And then him and OBJ are my flexes, I think, or my wide receivers. And I think I'm going to go with you here, Patrick. I know San Francisco's defense is pretty scary and they're very tough. They're top 4 against tight ends, but you can't sit Trey McBride. And this is a divisional matchup. Things always happen a little wonky in divisional games, especially in the NFC East or West, the NFC West. So I do think I like Trey McBride there as well. Terry McLaurin, if this was any other year and he was more consistent, I think he's a must start, but I just don't know if I can advocate to start him right now with, like you said, the play calling. So 1 week it's Logan Thomas, 1 week it's Curtis Samuel, then it's Brian Robinson, and then it's Terry McLaurin, and then it's Jahan Dotson. You just can't predict it, Patrick, and I think it's been frustrating for all of us that own any Commanders wide receiving options there.
Yeah, with in a team devoid of talent, Douglas looks really good. The last 2 weeks he was playing, I thought, this guy's on the Patriots. The Patriots haven't done anything right in a long time, from the Tyreek Thornton and the N'Keal Harry. Like, wow, this Douglas guy, he looks really, really good. So, yeah, and it's him, Zeke, and maybe a sprinkle of Hunter Henry. So, yeah, I like Douglas for that 3rd spot.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, Patrick, but I'm pretty sure they actually drafted Kayshon Boutte over earlier than Douglas as well, and that's been a complete miss too.
Yeah, it's pretty much at this point, whatever Bill does, you might want to go the opposite way. He's been wrong a lot from the GM standpoint, but they found a gem in Douglas so far.
Absolutely, they did. All right, Ryan says Adam Thielen versus the Atlanta Falcons or Devin Singletary versus the Tennessee Titans. 1 point PPR. This is for his flex spot.
Singletary. There's no, let me get this right. No Stroud, no Collins, no Tank Dell. Is Dalton Schultz playing? Damian Pierce looks a little washed. Could be a big Singletary day.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement here with that. Brant and I have been really high on Devin Singletary dating back to when he signed there. We both kind of thought he would usurp Damian Pierce at some point this season, and it looks like it's happened. He looks fresh in that backfield. He really does. Whereas with this Carolina wide receiving core, you've really seen Jonathan Mingo burst onto the scene the last couple of weeks. What was making Thielen relevant early in the season was his target numbers were just off the charts. And the last 3 weeks, Patrick, he's had 3, 6, and 7 targets, whereas Jonathan Mingo in that same stretch has just been a target machine. They're not great targets, so it's not like it's super sexy. But Jonathan Mingo has gone the opposite way. He went from 6, 10 to 9. So the numbers are getting way better for Mingo, whereas they're slowly declining for Thielen. So I absolutely go with Singletary here. I think you hit the nail on the head. He's just, there's nobody else in that offense, and somebody's going to score for Houston. It's a divisional matchup against the Titans. I like Singletary.
Yeah, me too.
Patrick, the people have heard you speak. They said they heard you say how much you love Terry McLaurin, so they were waiting until you got here to ask all the scary Terry questions. Says he's got a 2-part question here: half-point PPR, Terry McLaurin or Drake London?
This is the week where McLaurin goes crazy, isn't it? I like 100-yard, 2 scores for McLaurin. Of course, as we're advocating, like, no, I think he has 1 touchdown all year. It seems like he should have a ton of points because Howell's playing so well. He's maybe wide receiver 25 to 30, somewhere in that range. And as much as it pains me to, like, you think Ritter isn't good, and then you look at the box score, like, London is getting the stats. It probably doesn't translate from how the game went to the box score, but London's getting the points. I'd go London there.
Yeah, I'm not sitting London, especially not after what I witnessed in person last week. It kind of looked like a coming out party for Drake London. It was like one of those things where Arthur Smith's like, hey, man, I'm coaching for my job. You're playing for your job, Ritter. Throw the ball up there. Drake London's down there some damn place. And it worked out well for the Falcons offense. It was like the only thing moving the ball against Tampa Bay well last week. So, yeah, I think Drake London – the rest of the season is a must start, at least for me. I know I'm a homer in that one. And sometimes I have to be reeled in a little bit, Patrick, because I get overexcited about Drake London when he shows these bursting onto the scene kind of weeks like he had last week. But he had 30 some points in PPR and without a touchdown. So I like Drake London, like I said, moving forward the rest of the season. I think you're going to see that Falcons offense play loose and carefree, trying to go get into the playoffs. And plus, Drake London's got to make up for his 0 against the Panthers in week 1. So I think he goes for a big week this week. So I'm going with London on that one. The other part of his question is, it must be in a super flex league. He's got King Henry or Will Levis in half-point PPR.
Who's his quarterback and who's his running back? Should be able to fit those in there somehow. I would go Levis. He's got the DeAndre Hopkins revenge game. They looked really good. That fourth quarter, Will Levis looked amazing. Zipping throws in there into tight windows, had a lot of velocity on the throws. It was like this whole second half of the game, Will Levis looked like a completely different person. And I think DeAndre Hopkins has a monster week. So
it's really hard to not start 2 quarterbacks in the Superflex league. So I understand. Yeah. I'd have to imagine, like you kind of said, there has to be a way to get Derrick Henry in there someplace else. 3 weeks in a row of 2 touchdowns in the games. It'd be so hard to sit him, but Superflex, it's hard to sit a quarterback. You feel like you're at a massive disadvantage. So if it's truly this or that, then I think you do go with Will Levis. But if you can get both of them in there, I think you got to try.
Yeah.
All right, here comes our very own Jay with a question straight to my heart, Patrick. Since it's a strange week for him, he's either out of the playoffs altogether or on a bye. He's looking for a lighter option of football snacks with a big Christmas week coming up.
Maybe a salad, maybe like a nice big salad with some grilled chicken and a light dressing.
All right, well, that does it for Patrick this week on the show.
A lot of salad.
Oh, okay. Still out.
Cookies.
I started my week off like every football fan should. I ate cold pizza for breakfast, leftovers from delivery we had the night before. We're having gyros for lunch because, again, who doesn't have a gyro on football Sunday? And then I'm not sure what my wife's cooking. She's going grocery shopping today while I'm sitting on the couch like every man should get to do on Sundays. And I'm sure we will have some very hearty rib sticking, just massive dinner because that's what we do on Sundays. So there's no lighter option here, Jay. I'm just prepping my body for the copious amount of calories I'm going to consume next week for Christmas. So I'm already in the zone. I've been in it all year.
You don't need a lighter option. You just need less of a huge option.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Tony says, is Metcalf a safe play since Geno is still up in the air for Monday night with Slay being out for Philly?
Man, what he did against the Cowboys, yeah, sign me up. I even think Drew Lock didn't play as bad as I thought he would. And a lot of his bad throws where he was trying to keep him close, he threw some there's going to be Drew Lock will throw interceptions on Monday if it is him, but hopefully that's after 2 touchdowns to Metcalf, because I can't believe how bad the Eagles secondary is, and they lost Slay.
Yeah, Metcalf's a completely different person since he's, learning his sign language I'm all for the stand-on business. I love the trash talking through sign language. I think it's one of the most gangster things we've ever seen in football, so I'm for it. Not necessarily the long snapper of the San Francisco 49ers doing it back to DK Metcalf, but when DK does it, it's pretty cool. I absolutely like DK, whether Drew Lock's under center or Geno. Let's try to remember Geno Smith was a nobody until he got to Seattle too. So I think Pete Carroll might be a quarterback whisperer. I think you're right, Patrick. I think there'll be interceptions if Drew Lock plays, but he'll also put some good balls on these wide receivers. He doesn't. There's not enough drop off from him to Geno in my mind that I'm nervous or scared to play these guys. So, hi, buddy. Yep. Go on. Almost got another special guest here. But anyway, I think DK's a good play. So I'm fine with DK. Todd says, good morning, boys. Kenneth Walker, Deontay Foreman.
Man. Both have a lot of competition for touches and against some tough defenses. I might go Foreman. Well, actually, there's a lot of mouths to feed, but Khalil Herbert and Roshan haven't really gotten as many touches, especially Roshan. That breaks my heart. I was hoping he'd carve out a bigger role, but not yet. It might be coming, but might not be today.
Yeah, I think I think I'd go Deontay Foreman. Listen, I've been a big Deontay Foreman fan. I picked him up in almost every league I could. And I've held on to him because it wasn't me saying when Khalil Herbert comes back, he's going to be, forgotten about. Deontay Foreman's been the best running back in Chicago all season. This Cleveland versus Chicago game, I think is going to be a ground and pound. Whoever wins the trenches wins this game. So I think you're going to see a decent amount of run plays in this game. And like I said, I'm okay with the pass catchers against Philly. I'm not so sure I'm okay with the running backs. Like I said, they're the 4th best team against the running back. The Eagles are. So I think I'm kind of fading Kenneth Walker this week, which maybe that bites me in the butt, Patrick. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the Browns and the Bears are both really good against the run. So that's between a rock and a hard place on that one.
Absolutely it is. Joe says Jerome Ford or OBJ in his flex.
OBJ. Well, yeah, I'd go OBJ. I think Ford was a little banged up. I think the last 2 weeks, and then against the Bears, that's probably some tough sledding there.
Yeah, I think OBJ is probably the higher ceiling play. Jerome Ford maybe the slight safer play, but OBJ, if you're trying to get a decent amount of points, is the one there for me. Yeah. And then here you go, Sherman with the message that we like to see. Thanks for all the help this season, guys. First round buy in both leagues I play in. That's the whole reason everybody gets up and does this stuff. Everybody on the FantasyHolics team is getting together and putting stuff out so that this is the results that we see. Love to see that, Sherman. Best of luck to you. Hopefully we see you next week, getting you ready for those games next week. Joe says James Cook or Kenneth Walker. So here we go with another Kenneth Walker question.
And another harping on the weather, that Buffalo Dallas game sounds like it's going to be miserable. I don't know. That's a tough one. It looks like Cook's been a lot more involved in the game plan with Joe Brady since they fired Ken Dorsey. I think I'd lean Cook, but I don't feel great about either. Cook in PPR, definitely.
Yep, I go James Cook here. I think if the weather's bad, I think it makes for a better Cook game, personally. And I don't know why I probably shouldn't feel this way, but the Dallas defense scares me a little less against the run than the Eagles defense does.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably because there's no Jalen Carter up front for the Cowboys. That man's just too big to be a human. But I go James Cook here. All right, we got 2 more questions here. We're going to try to get through these really quick, and then we're going to get off of here, guys. First one, Vincente says, who would you play, Raheem Mostert, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or Deontay Foreman?
Definitely not CEH. How many times can people get burned by CEH? So many people wanted him last week. I think he had 19 touches for 15 carries for 60 yards or something. I could not sleep at night having started CEH.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I personally, I think it's Raheem Mostert. He's currently running back 2 on the season in PPR formats. He's got to be in your lineup. Yeah, he's got to be in your lineup here. All right, Patrick, one last question we got here, and then we're going to sign off. Derek says, Isaiah Likely, Trey McBride, or David Njoku?
Man, Likely feels like the best start. I really like McBride. I can't get away from McBride. I initially felt, McBride against 49ers, it's a tough matchup. But the more I read just from injury reports and even 49ers fans themselves said, we've got a lot of injuries and they're not going to shut Arizona. They don't feel like they'll shut down Arizona like some people are thinking. So it could be a closer, higher scoring game than people are expecting. My heart says McBride, but I could see going Likely. I would go McBride, but Likely is a good start also. He's been running a ton of routes, had a ton of involvement. Can't go wrong there.
Okay. Likely and Njoku both see 2 of the worst defenses against tight ends. The Bears give up 100th of a point less than the Jags do, so it's very tight there. I think based on matchups, David Njoku's coming off an amazing week last week for fantasy. I think I go Isaiah Likely here just because I trust him, and that offense has kind of been tight end eccentric. Since Lamar's been there, really. But I think it's close. Trey McBride, I'm going to be honest, I think he is in must-start territory because of how Kyler Murray goes to him. But if I were to ever sit him, it'd be going against Fred Warner and that San Francisco 49ers defense. So I think I'd go Isaiah Likely here. All right. So John says, thanks, guys, for the help all season. You guys should do fantasy basketball. I don't do fantasy, but I'll tell you who does. Josh Rodriguez. He is one of the guys behind the scenes for the FantasyHolics, does a lot of behind the scenes work for us. He does a podcast called The Dime. They put out a lot of good NBA information. I don't know a whole lot about NBA. I haven't really followed it since the days of Allen Iverson, but Josh Rodriguez does. It's called The Dime, Johns. If you're interested, go check that out. It's definitely worth a listen.
Definitely.
So I want to say, first and foremost, Patrick, thank you for joining in. Thank you for taking over last week in the absence of Brent and myself. Thanks for joining in this week when Brent couldn't be here for the whole episode. We appreciate you. You are definitely an honorary fat boy at this point, whether you look the part or not. So we appreciate you. Hopefully everybody does well in their leagues this week. I want to say, if you didn't get your start sit question in time with us, jump over to the FantasyHolics Facebook page. Twitter as well. I believe you have it on there, Patrick. Ask your start sit questions on there. There's very responsive guys on there. They get these questions answered lickety split. You may sit for 30 seconds waiting for a question to be answered there. So don't hesitate to jump over there, give that a click, and ask your question there. I'm going to do the sign off here, even though, again, you're an honorary fat boy. You don't look the part. But as always, guys, stay fat and stay hungry.